Go for it.
Hey, folks! It's once again it's V the Guerrilla Economist coming to you live. It's another Rogue Money interviews, and I'm with my main man CJ. And you know what? We just got done doing an interview with Don Wettrick, and Don, being the master innovator that he is, the educational maven, he was going on and on. He's like, you know what? I got these two awesome students. They're really great. You know, he gave a little bit of a background of who these guys were, and Don's like, hey, you want to interview them? Me and CJ, we just dropped our mics and we're like, hell yeah. Let's get these two kids on because, guys, here's the deal. You know, this is about innovation. It's about education. It's about solutions. It's about, going forward. And oftentimes, a lot of people in the media and a lot of people that listen to this podcast as well as our YouTube channels could, see what's going on around the world, especially all the societal, geopolitical, and economic changes that are occurring in this country, and be fearful and be like scared and petrified. These two young men are so awesome. They're so inspirational because they understand the power of personal responsibility. They understand, rather than sitting there bitching and crying about this, that, and the other, they are saying, okay, what are the solutions? And these two guys, Robert Jones and Jack Caroselli, I'm gonna introduce these guys. I'm gonna hand it over to these guys. They have an awesome podcast, and you guys need to subscribe to that podcast. They've been on various other YouTube shows and whatnot. Roberts tore up a couple of famous libtards who were trying to debate him, and Rob shredded them. It's a good one on you, Rob. But with that being said, gentlemen, it's an honor and it's a privilege for me to have both you guys on. I'm humbled. Thank you for being on. You guys are I look up. I can seriously say you guys are like my heroes at this point. Man, I am like grinning from ear to ear, bro. Thank you guys for coming on. So. Either one of you guys can start talking, Rob or Jack. Go ahead.
Well, gosh, thanks for the intro. That was a warm welcome. I feel like it's more of an honor for me, but if you insist. Well, my name's Jack Caroselli. I'm one half of the Solutions Matter podcast. It was a podcast born out of something we started last year called Fruitfully Honest, and it was sort of about sort of tackling these political, religious issues and things that people didn't want to talk about, things that were viewed as taboo, things people were scared to talk about. And now this year it's called Solutions Matter, and it's about this blame culture that we have.
Yeah.
In America, where we just want to look at the problem and find who's responsible for it instead of disregarding that and actually trying to figure out how to fix it. And so we've had a few people on. We've talked about a few different things, mainly politics and a few religion episodes. I'm gonna try to also move into mental health. That's sort of my background. I have anxiety and depression, so that's sort of my forte, if you could say that much. And I'm sort of trying to destigmatize the whole situation. And I've talked to some people at a therapy group in my city, so we're sort of moving to that too. We're trying to cover a bunch of different topics because it's a lot about complaining. My generation, and not just our generation, but a lot of the stereotypes for our generation is that we just like to complain and not do anything about it. And I catch myself all the time, but the goal of the podcast not only is for us to get better at that, but to spread the gospel of solutions is what we sort of say. And try to show people that, given a chance, you can actually make a difference just by talking to people and working on, talking about the right things, not just talking about what's wrong. Because you can find negativity if that's what you're looking for. But if you're looking for positivity and things to change, then it's going to. And that's just sort of my view on the podcast. I really like it.
Well said. Well said. And Robert, and you
yeah. So basically, kind of going off of what he said, we noticed that people were complaining, and when people complain, nothing gets done.
Right.
Our politicians out in Washington, they just sit around and complain about this and that. And, we're like, well, let's get people on who talk about the solutions to these problems. Let's get people on who are trying to make a difference in their community. Jack touched on his kind of passion for working with the mental health
right, yeah.
Community and that kind of stuff. And like me personally, the Black community is probably the most important issue in the well, they're not an issue, but the most important thing that I should be focused on. So we basically just came together and we're like, well, let's each have our different things that we want to, you know, talk about and find solutions for, and let's work on fixing them. So.
Absolutely. Jack, tell us a little bit about the mental health things that you find, especially young people, man. There's such a stigma today about mental health. I mean, and you know, people are ashamed of it. They want to hide it. They want to keep it a secret. And oftentimes it would just makes the situation so much worse because they're just bottling everything up, man. So what's your take on mental health, and how are you going about making a difference and making an impact and taking that stigma away?
Oh yeah. And I love that you said bottling everything up, because that's really how I used to do it for so long. It's really only been the past year and a half now that I've sort of opened up about it. And I've seen so many positive changes that have come from that. And that's sort of what I want to show people, is that it's really, it's terrifying and scary to tell people that you have these issues, especially because when I first started talking about it, all people wanted to say is that I was just wanting attention. I didn't really have these issues, or I was exaggerating. You know, people laughed at me for it. Because for some reason, opening up about you know, an insecurity or an illness that you have is viewed as weakness. And as a man,
especially from a man,
right? Yeah, a man with larger stature like myself, I don't really look too vulnerable if you look at me. But when I start talking about my issues, then people are like, "Wow, this guy's totally not a man," you know. So the part of the stigma here is really to get people to open up. The mental health group I'm talking to in my area, they have a thing called the Zero Suicide Initiative, and their goal is 0 suicides in 5 years for our area. And what I introduced to them in schools, because they work a lot with schools, is that you need to get people to talk about it more. And they were like, well, you know, the more we try to get new people, the more we spread ourselves thin. And I said, well, yeah, but you need to do that. Spreading yourself thin increases the amount of people you get to, because suicides they occur to people who never sought help, who the parents never even knew they were going through these issues. And then all of a sudden, you know, there's a suicide note by their bed and they're gone. And the parents say he lit up the room when he walked in. No one even knew. The people who go through therapy usually come out fine, relatively, depending on your definition of fine. But I tried to tell them, you have to get people to open up. It's not the people who are in therapy. They're going to be fine. It's the people who don't talk about it. And that's what I've been talking to them about, is you need to develop some program to make it okay to talk about it, because it is taboo. No one wants to talk about it in our school. There's an office dedicated to it, and everyone, you know, if you go down to that office, people assume you're in trouble, and it's almost like you're criminalized for it. And that's part of the stigma that I'm trying to break, is that suicide isn't, and I think suicide's technically illegal in some places, which is weird.
It's illegal to commit suicide.
Right? Yeah. What, are they going to arrest you when you're dead? That's what I've never understood.
You and the corpse are under arrest.
Throw a corpse in jail? Like, I don't know. That's not going to work. But sort of the mental health aspect for me, they do a lot with addictions, and I have an addictive personality, but I don't have any addictions, I guess. But the anxiety and depression is something, the stigma we have to break, because I went so long without asking for help because I was too scared of what people were going to think of me. And now I'm sort of getting to the point where people are like, you can be this voice, because I realize there's so many people who still haven't talked about it. Just in this school building right now, how many people who go home and cry and struggle, who are on the verge of the cliff, and they can't seem to get away from it, step away, and they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to say anything. And it's hard for me to know that that's happening, because I was there. And it makes me sad. And I have friends who don't talk, and then they bring it up after me knowing them for 2 years. And I say, well, I never even knew this was going on. And they're like, I never wanted to talk about it. You're the only person who knows. So I try to, one thing I've done a lot too, is to try to be the therapist for my friends. So even on like my worst days, if someone messaged me with an issue, I would always help because it got me away from my problems for just a moment. And that's what I'm trying to do with this mental health group. I want to do some sort of public speaking. I'm actually writing a book right now, and it was going to be sort of a memoir. Now I'm switching it to like a self-help book, sort of a how-to and sort of coping mechanisms and things. Just because I've dealt with this for I think 4 years now, is when I really started understanding what was going on, and I want to sort of go to schools and talk about this book and not so much even sell the book as just try to help people because I make music too, and I always said I want the top selling album, but more prestigious than that. If I was known as someone who reduced the suicide rate, that would be a bigger honor than 25 Grammys in a lifetime. So that's sort of my goal at this point.
Awesome. That's awesome. That's spectacular, man. And it's a great point. I remember like 2 years ago that locally I've had so many teens that just off themselves. One teen was this was like during that brutal winter we had in New York about 2 years ago. They locked themselves in the car, allowed the snowplow to kind of like plow over their car, and they never left. And then they just started the engine and allowed the carbon monoxide to come in and wind up killing themselves and left a note. And this is like some sort of star student, never had a problem, didn't show any sort of real signs of depression or anything, but inside they were dying. They were dying on the inside. So, it's a serious thing, man. And young people have, because of social media and all this, all the pressures from society, they have more pressures and more peer pressure to deal with, and more, issues with friends and whatnot, and bullying and all these other things, man. It's a lot of pressure on kids these days, man, without a doubt. Rob, let's talk,
yes,
man.
Sir. What's
let's
up,
talk, buddy? Your passion is the Black community, and
yes, it is.
I connect with you on that level, man. Being somebody from New York, I'm not an African American, but I am a person of color, and I grew up in a poor, predominantly Black neighborhood, and I've seen the transition from when I've graduated high school. And all my friends that were in my group, we all graduated and we all went to college. We all became successful, thank God. And we look back every so often. We hook up and like, hey, you heard of so and so? No, so and so is locked up. You heard of so and so? Well, he's still hanging out at the bodega. You heard of so and so? Well, he just had another kid with this other. It's a disaster.
Yeah, it is.
And statistically, it's a disaster. And, there was a time in my life where I thought, oh, it's racism. Then you start realizing, I'm like, wait a minute, man, if it's racism, if there's this thing called institutional racism, number one, where is the institution? And then, we'll go fight it together. And number two, if it's straight up institutional racism, how come, like, I look at it like, when I start seeing like other minorities that are coming into this country, people from Asia and whatnot,
and they come in and do great.
Hell yeah, they come in, they kick ass. I mean, I met like Southeast Asians that make that are so dark.
Yeah,
like all you like that. African American look light skinned in comparison. Okay,
yeah.
And these guys go forth and they kick ass and take names and they become very successful. What do you think, Rob? You being a young gentleman and straight up raw dog out there on the table. What do you think is the problem? Like I've said this before, and a bunch of other commentators said it as well. I call it plantation politics. Where do you want to take it, bro?
Well, personally in my life, I think that the lack of fatherhood and the lack of fathers is the biggest problem in the Black community. Even in my family, in my life, I don't have a father in the home, and that's what he's not in there due to suicide. And that's kind of the connection, between me and Jack is like, he wants to do that kind of stuff. And like, this has actually happened to me. So the biggest problem in the Black community is the lack thereof fathers. And what the lack of fathers does to especially young Black men is it gives them this kind of unsurability about how to do things and how to truly act like a man and be a man. Because if you grow up in a house full of women,
yeah,
you don't have a good male role model. You don't have a male that you can go to talk to.
Right.
Like this is an example. This is a very plain and simple example, but I was at work a few days ago and there was a football game on, and I don't know the rules of football. Surprisingly, I love basketball and everything, but I never learned the rules of football. So my
No,
boss,
you being from Indiana, you like basketball? No.
yes. Well, I like Los Angeles basketball. I like the Lakers. So, but my boss was like, when I told him that, he's like, is your house female dominated? And I was like, it sure is. And I was like, that's probably one of the reasons why I don't know this, is because certain things you just learn when there's a man in the house. Like
Right.
a boy or a man is afraid to ask his mom about certain issues and certain things that are going on in his life because it's not comfortable. Like if you get a Jimmy or something, you don't go and ask your mom how to handle this. That's a problem that you go and you ask your dad. Mm-hmm. So this is one of the biggest problems I see. And then another problem with that is the fact that when you're raised by, and I'm trying to be as nice as I can, a single black woman, you kind of think you could get away with certain things because you see your mom and your aunts get away with it. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is like talking back to cops and not respecting authority, these kind of things. Mm-hmm. They really tear apart a young black man and set him up for failure. Right. And then you also mentioned the whole political plantation, or what'd you call it, refer to it as?
Plantation politics, man.
Plantation politics. So it's basically politicians, Democrats pimping mm-hmm. out black votes. This has been one of the biggest problems that the community's faced. And, you know, we have certain race hustlers at the race casino. Yep. You probably don't know who Tariq Nasheed is.
I do.
Okay.
I don't like him.
I don't like him either. So,
and when I heard when Don told me how he was trying to go after you, and this is you know, this is a punk guy. This is a guy that if I would have saw him on the show, I smack him.
Yeah,
like the kind of guy.
He's stupid. Because like I reached out. Well, he tweeted something, and I reached out to try to have a dialogue and a discussion about what he said on Twitter. As it was about some school stabbing or something. Yeah, and he was calling me all types of trolls and everything. So I emailed him. And then a few minutes after I emailed him, he was like, "Oh, you're in cahoots with Crispy," and he was talking about Tommy Sotomayor, another guy that I interviewed and looked up to, and it's basically like he called me a little bitch, and it's like I'm trying to have a dialogue about solutions, and find solutions to these problems that are going on in the world, but you're afraid to have these conversations, and that all ties back to, growing up in a single black household, because in a single black household, if you say something that your single mother doesn't like, she will go off on you. She will whoop you. She will have something smart back to say. So the biggest problem is those two issues that I just laid out. So
yeah, absolutely. Jack.
Yeah.
Mental health issues, man. What are some of the things right now that you're involved in, apart from the things that you've mentioned, but like what else? In other words, what are things that people can do to be aware of mental health? Are there any groups that they could join? Are there anything that you would recommend that you've seen work for individuals that allows them? And what helps you? What helped you come forward? Because, dude, depression's a hard thing to deal with, and anxiety. And here you are, you're doing a podcast, you're on video, and if you told me, you suffer from anxiety, I would have never believed you. I'm like, get the hell out of here. You come off as one of the most confident dudes I've ever seen, man. It's awesome. It's like you have such a good energy about you. So what is some of the steps that you see other people do, and some of the things that you've done for yourself to really bring you out of your shell?
Yeah, totally. The biggest thing, and thank you for mentioning that thing about confidence. That's actually something a lot of people say, and just that I have a way with words, I guess you could say, and that I appear confident, and that's sort of, I actually made a song a while back called "The Mask," and it was sort of about this mask that I put on my face, and there's these little memes you can find on the internet of people who put on like this little human bodysuit, and it's like a smiling guy or whatever. And it's just sort of about the fact that I thought for so long that if I pretended to be happy, it would work, and just try to make people believe. But it didn't work, and it was actually, sure, people thought I was happy and whatever, and I was the class clown, but it always made me worse. And that's sort of where I got to my breaking point sophomore year of high school. Is that I had been fake, not necessarily fake or two-faced, but I had been, acting someone I wasn't for so long, and finally the mask just broke, and underneath was this vulnerable person, and now I'm not necessarily wearing a mask anymore. It's just sort of that I've repaired the face that was underneath. So I would say to the people who feel stuck, you just have to find your purpose, because this metaphor that I like to use is that right now in life, as a young person, you're sort of standing at the edge of a forest, right? And the forest, you're looking in and you're like, dude, there could be a bear in there. I could go in there and there might not be water. And right now you have depleted resources. You don't really have much water or food. So the idea of suicide in this situation is to never go in the forest. And the forest is the rest of your life. So the point is, yeah, you could go in there and you could get mauled by a bear. Absolutely, but you could also go in and there could be the oasis. You could run into a park ranger or something. So say you never go in and then you die of starvation, and the next day a park ranger comes out of the forest and finds your dead body, and that was your savior. And the park ranger doesn't necessarily have to be a person. It could be this idea or this calling that you have. So it's saying the resources in your pocket, your water and your food, is your confidence, your self-awareness, your sureness in yourself, and the forest is your life. The park ranger is the thing you're meant to do, and the bear is fear. So yeah, there could be a bear in there. You could go in there and fail super hard, but it's no different than if you had just stayed on the outside. At least you went in the forest. At least you got in there and to see what was going on.
Yeah.
Because if you walk in, there's a tent with a park ranger, you find it, and then they can take you back to civilization, and then you're happy again. Right. Because I really hadn't been truly happy until really these past 6 months have been good. And so that's what, and that's really the time that I've found my true calling. So, and I know it's really hard for somebody who's just so suicidal or unsure of themselves to think of what they like to do, because there's, with this class even, there's people who come in here who don't know what to do. What we talked to Naveen Jain, we had a chance to interview him, not me and Robert, but the class, and it was awesome. What he mentioned, he said, your true calling is what you would do if you had all the money in the world. The next day when you woke up, what would you do? And when I started asking myself that question, it's like, I wouldn't, when I was little, I thought it was all about money. And when I heard your guys' name, Rogue Money, I thought about that. And I said, I wanted to be an anesthesiologist when I was little, because I looked up top paying job in the United States, and that was number one. And it was like $400,000 a year. And so I was like, yeah, I'm going to go to medical school. I'm going to go waste that time of my life so I can make the money. And then I realized that I didn't want to do that at all. And then I started thinking of jobs that really don't necessarily make a lot of money, but it's about fulfilling yourself. So you have to people who are struggling right now, you have to keep holding on, and it really does get better. And I know how cliche that sounds, and I used to yell at friends who would tell me that, because it just pissed me off. When someone says it'll get better, it almost seemed like a cop-out to me. It's like, you don't even have something to say. You just want to say that. But as someone who has been through it to hell and back, I can say with full confidence that it does. You have to make an effort. It doesn't get better if you sit there. If you sit at the edge of the forest, you're just going to die. That's how it's going to be. You have to go in there. You have, who played Princess Leia? What was her name?
Carrie Fisher.
Carrie Fisher. Yeah, she was a big advocate for mental health, and she said, "Be scared, but do it anyway." And that's sort of what I go for too, is because I'm going to be scared no matter what I do. That's just how anxiety works. But I have to find ways to say, I don't care. Sure, yeah, I'm scared, but I have to figure out how to get, those butterflies in my stomach to fly in formation, and make something good out of it. Wettrick, I'm not sure where he got this quote, but he always said this to me, is the obstacle is the way and to success.
Yes.
And that's really what I've taken to heart, and really how I've got on this mission of mental health is I have to almost use it to my advantage, because mental health can be so debilitating if you let it. But if you don't let it and tell it, look, I'm going to use you. If you've taken hold of my heart, I'm going to use you right back to my advantage. You have to find something that makes you want to get up every day, and it's not going to be easy. You have to be willing. People, something I always do is I fall in love with the result, not the process.
Yeah.
I'm no longer in love with just being happy. I'm in love with trying to be happy, and that's what you have to do. You can't just sit in your room all day and just sulk about what's going on. You actually, and that's in the spirit of our podcast, you have to do something about it. You can't just blame, oh, well, my anxiety's so bad, I don't want to go outside. Go outside. Go to the mall in your best damn clothes. Go out and just walk around. Don't even buy anything. If you don't have any money, go there and walk around. Just say hi to somebody. Human contact is important. And I work at a job that requires that, basically, and that's good for me. So just to sum it up, because I know I'm rambling, would be to somebody, just find what you love. That's as simple as that. You really have to.
I love what you said, man. Love the process. A lot of times people just love a goal. They love an idea. I mean, look at New Year's resolutions, man. Resolutions are like, New Year's wishful thinking, basically, right?
Yeah.
For a lot of people. And I love what Inky Johnson, if Tennessee Volunteers, former, a football player who, got himself into a catastrophic injury on the field and he couldn't play football again. If anybody wanted to YouTube the thing that he did with E.T., Eric Thomas, that he did on YouTube, where Inky Johnson was talking about, I mean, it's totally inspirational. One of the things that Inky's always said is like, you got to fall in love with the process. You got to love the process. The process is everything. Oftentimes we're so in love with the product that we neglect the process, man. But it's the process that gets you the product. So if you want better mental health, you want a better body, whatever the hell it is, you got to love the process. And I love what Wettrick said to you guys. The obstacle is the way. And it's so true, man. It's absolutely true. Robert, what are some of the things that young African Americans can do to start the deconstructing the damn programming that's really gone onto them, that's really like debilitating them, man? It's how can it's the young people we got to reach, right?
Yeah, the old people are stuck in their ways. They're not going to change.
They're going to vote Democrat on, till they go into the grave. They're going to, vote for the same policies and believe the same BS. But we have a clear opportunity here with the young people. What would you say to the African American youth?
I mean, it's honestly, it's a very hard thing to do, but you kind of got to be more open to what other people have to say and hear all types of perspectives. Mm-hmm. Don't just leave it on CNN and MSNBC. Put it on Fox every once in a while and see what they're saying. Mm-hmm. Of course, as far as bettering the community, I think we'd have to get rid of some of the government programs or whatever that are going on that are enabling people to stay poor and stay impoverished. We have to, value fathers and promote fatherhood in the Black community, because obviously that's missing. I believe last year, 77% of African-American children were born without a father in the household. So what that says is 77% of kids are going to grow up without a father in the Black community. Mm-hmm. So I think basically if you can get those three things rolling, then we're off to a pretty good start. So, and
I would say, sorry to cut you off there, I would say another thing too for the young Black youth, I guess just the Black youth, not the young Black youth, but to go out of your way to find somebody who has opposite beliefs to your own. I have a liberal background. I'm sort of a libertarian, sort of on the middle line at this point, but
Same here.
that's how I grew up. So Robert obviously has a more conservative view. I know you guys have a more conservative view too. You have to purposely find people who have opposite views to yourself, and let yourself get triggered, let yourself get offended. That's good, because that's challenging your own beliefs. Like, people think being triggered, you need safe zone. No, I want you to be triggered all the time. You know, you need to be challenged. If you aren't challenged, you're not going to get better.
And you know, some people, I don't think they're not willing to go through that. Like, I have family members last Thanksgiving, well, not this Thanksgiving in 2016, but in 2015, I'm the only conservative person in my family. And so I walked in there and they were talking about politics and everything. And you know what I said? I said, Trump is the way to go. He's going to do it. He's going to win the whole thing, and he's going to make America great again. And they were like, what are you saying? What's wrong with you? You're black. You're not supposed to think that way. So how am I supposed to think? Because I'm black. So I asked that question. And then, you know, they started thinking. And then a year later, I go in there and they're like, well, he won, so, you know, we're going to give him a chance. I mean, you saw something in him, so we're gonna give him a chance. Like, you gave him a chance from the get-go.
Right.
It's just, I forgot where I was going with that.
Well, you know, I think it's good that they at least acknowledge that and given him a chance.
Yeah.
Because I think it's the liberals who said, Trump fans, you have to accept the election no matter what happens. Then the election goes in Trump's favor, and they riot.
They go and riot and protest and burn down stuff. So,
oh man, I mean,
such a double standard.
I mean, you guys heard this morning, we covered in our news broadcast this morning what was happening with the libtard attack on the I think there was supposed to be an after party called the Deplorables Ball. They're going to use butyric acid and throw it into the vents. I mean, these people are crazy. Like, that's a terrorist act, man.
Yeah, it is.
Right. And we talked about last week the thing in Chicago, the 4 black teens kidnapping the white guy.
What in the world?
And CNN wanted to report that as a hate crime on mentally ill people. Not once in the entire stream did they mention, you know, retard. They were calling him white boy, Trump supporter.
Dude. And then Don Lemon. This is
that's not evil. That's not evil. It's just a bad decision.
Yeah.
And the black police chief of Chicago said, I think teens just make stupid decisions sometimes.
You know,
and that's why Chicago is in the mess, man, because everybody's, you know, Chicago has its law and order. Their balls are in a vice. They're not going to do that. They're completely neutered.
And I mean, it's kind of sad that in the current state that we're in, the police can't discipline accordingly to the law because they'll be labeled as racist or whatever. It's really sad.
It seems like nobody can be held accountable anymore because of the fear of offending them. Political correctness, we talked about that too. You can't call a Muslim a terrorist because then that's racist. Like, what? If you perform an attack, a violent attack with a religious or political or racial motive, that's a terrorist act. There's nothing else to that. And people are scared to offend someone because they have the same religion as the guy that took down the towers. And we could debate about that too.
Yeah.
But and with black people, they didn't want to call these 4 teens terrorists, but they scalped this kid. And they didn't want to say that
and
you know,
and
I can't believe it.
What's also a mess is the fact that the only person I believe that can give criticism and not be called racist is a lesbian atheist black lady. I think that's the only person on the planet who can give criticism to whoever they plead. Right. I think it's sad, and black people are always like, well, you're a coon because you stand up for white people or whatever. There's an attack right now on married white Christian straight men, white men. There's an attack on those type of people. They can't criticize anybody. They can't do anything without being labeled as racist or bigot or whatever. I mean, it's crazy. I think everybody should be able to, you know, criticize accordingly based on what's going on. But we live in a state now where only one group of people can criticize anybody, and it's a shame.
That's why the left is having a hard time dealing with guys like Milo Yiannopoulos.
Yeah, they are. Milo's amazing. I love Milo.
He is amazing. I love him too, man. He is amazing. Milo is the man, and the left just doesn't, because he's that protected class. He's a homosexual.
Yeah, he is. Yeah,
you know?
like I mean, if you're gay, if you're black, if you're
gender fluid.
Yeah, gender fluid. Whatever's up.
Well,
whatever's
how
wrong
many genders
with
are there, guys? Like 76 genders now.
Yeah,
there's 52 genders according to Lacey Green or whatever.
Yeah,
her name is.
There's so many of them now.
I got 52 genders, but being a boy ain't one.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, and in no way am I saying that I don't like gay people or
of course not
any of that kind of stuff. I have no problem with them. They can do whatever they want, but they should be able to take criticism.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't even, I'm because of my liberal background, I wouldn't necessarily say that gender just has to be limited to 2, but I damn sure would not say there's 52. I would say maybe 3 or 4, man, woman, somewhere in between, and then not really sure, but there's no need for 52 or whatever the number is. Demi-romantic. I'm a turtlekin. What is that? Like, what is turtlekin? I'm a turtlekin. This Tumblr stuff.
Tumblr is a Pokemon, man.
I don't even know. That could be fake. I don't know. I saw that somewhere on Tumblr. That's the only social media I've never made an account for, because everything bad I've ever seen come from the left comes from Tumblr. I can't understand it.
Yeah, it's insane. I think we seriously need to get a grasp on America and just everything in general. It's really not. If we keep going this route, we're going to be extinct in a few years. So
yeah, I absolutely, dude. One of the things I say, especially with the black community, it's this: when you got guys like prolific individuals like Dr. Ben Carson, guy's a neurosurgeon, guy has 26 honorary doctorates. I mean, what a badass, right? But instead of like looking at a guy like him, like, wow, this guy's amazing, it's like we're looking at like guys like Jay-Z.
Al Sharpton.
Yeah. We're looking at dudes like Jay-Z, guys who basically exploit, the black community.
Yeah.
Guys who are really, you want to talk about like the house Negro. There's your house Negro. Jay-Z, a lot of the rappers, this, that, and that. Those are your house Negro. Those are the guys that are really not doing much of anything. Because
they're not. I mean, what they're doing, like especially with Jay-Z, I thought it was really funny when Hillary was campaigning. She brought out Jay-Z and Beyonce, and they were talking about Trump is racist and he's bigot and all this different stuff, and he speaks badly about women, and women are great. Who runs the world? Girls. And then you got Jay-Z on there, who who has songs called Big Pimpin', where he's talking about how he pimps his women, and got songs where he's talking about how he wouldn't give his woman can't get any of his money or anything because, I mean, he just says a whole bunch of crazy stuff in his rap. Correct. And then he goes on stage with her, and the left and the liberals, they're just accepting it. You're right, Jay. You tell it, Sean Carter. Like, I just don't think that makes sense at all.
No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't. It's that cognitive dissonance.
Say that too.
It's that cognitive dissonance that they have. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
But we're at the end of the broadcast. How can the audience follow both of you guys, your work, your social media? And I think now's the time you guys want to plug it. Go ahead.
Well, you can find our combined Twitter at SM_podcast.
Actually, there's an underscore before SM as well.
There is?
SM_podcast. Yeah. That's our Solutions Matter podcast Twitter account. And then we have our personals. Mine's at Caroselli_Jack.
Spell it for him.
CAROSELLI _Jack.
And mine is simply Real Robert Jones.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome.
And you can find us on YouTube, iTunes, and SoundCloud. It's just the Solutions Matter podcast. We're trying to get more people on. I don't know if you know of James Harris. He's a conservative guy. I saw his Facebook rant, and I'm trying to get him on. He just won't reply to my tweets. But I'm trying to get him on there because I think that would be cool to have him on. Solutions Matter. We're trying to start a movement.
Absolutely. You guys are the future. Guys like you, I would love to have every kid out there, every young person out there to have that type of mindset. It's about entrepreneurship. It's about empowerment. It's about the power of the individual. It's about, just really, again, being mature, being like what you guys said, being offended, being triggered, and dealing with it, and sharing of ideas, no matter how controversial it is. Thank you both for being on. You guys are both awesome.
You're welcome.
It was an
have
honor.
a great day.
Yep.
Definitely, man. We'll definitely maybe do this again.
Yep.
Totally, yeah.
Awesome, guys. Take care and have a good one. Enjoy the rest of your day at school.
Thank you.
Thanks. You have a good
Take
one.
care, guys. Bye-bye. Take it away, CJ.